Hello, Abigail here with the astrology of this week. Bright side, you will be happy to hear that we don't have much happening until Friday. Now, this, of course, comes with the astrological kind of caveat PSA that astrology doesn't like stop and start. So we will still be experiencing the runoff from the Saturn Neptune conjunction. We're in the eclipse portal. Stuff is going to be popping off pretty consistently. However, we don't have to experience like new pops of energy until we hit Friday. So cheers. I think we all are happy to hear. We still have some really, intense astrology and momentous astrology for 2026 this week, but it is not as intense or momentous as last week. You can all snaps for snaps to hear that. But yeah, this week we do begin the Mercury retrograde. We have been in the shadow period. The shadow period is the degrees that Mercury will pass back through. And then we have the pre-shadow period, which is when Mercury stations direct and goes back through those degrees. So this happens on Friday. Stations direct at 22 degrees of Pisces. Not direct, Jesus. I am already feeling it. It's not a shock. I actually recorded an entire half of this video without my microphone on. So this is our second time around. Can you tell I'm Mercury ruled? Anywho, so it'll be stationing retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces and then direct on the 20th of March at 8 degrees of Pisces, which is really interesting because we're seeing a lot of the conjunctions with the North Node. It's all happening at 8 degrees. So there's also a really beautiful callback to some other stuff that's happening, where the Venus conjunction happened, where the Sun conjunction is going to happen, where the Mars conjunction is going to happen. So, like most astrology, there's a beautiful symmetry in this. We're going to be stationing at that 8 degrees of Pisces, so a lot of energy is going to be held in that area where all of these conjunctions with the North Node have happened, which kind of exciting. It also says to me that this is a really big Mercury retrograde for change. There's always this big debate about Mercury retrogrades aren't really this big of a deal. They are this big of a deal, and people go back and forth. To me, they are a very big deal, but they're not a big deal in the sense of like, oh, my life never going to be the same. It's horrible. I was ruined. But it is a time to slow down, to take a step back, to process what we've been going through, to deal with issues and things that we have been delaying handling. Also, different people experience retrogrades differently based on their natal chart. So, for instance, for some reason, I always have kind of big, important life things happening within 1 to 2 days of the Mercury Cazimi retrograde. In every Mercury retrograde, there is a cycle of 3 sun conjunctions. There's the first sun conjunction, second the retrograde one, and then when it passes back through. It's part of this kind of trifecta. And if Mercury interacts with the planet before the retrograde far enough in advance, then we have another trifecta, just so you know. So, while no, it's not this devastating event, it is a really important time to regroup and to reconsider and to process old energy, and which I think is really important to anyone's spiritual and energetic growth. So, I don't like to minimize them, but we also don't catastrophize them. And for some people, like I have a friend who isn't Mercury ruled, but they're a very mercurial person. Um, they tend to like have a crazy like physical things happen to them, usually surrounding their car. 2 of their tires have already blown, and we're only in the pre-shadow period. One time they lost their keys. So everyone experiences these energies differently based on where they are. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I think their Mercury's in the 6th house. So the mundane day-to-day stuff really gets gummed up for them when Mercury is retrograde. For me, Mercury's in the 8th. It's always other people. It's always other people's stuff that I get to experience. And I actually get some really cool stuff from other people during Mercury retrogrades. But it's important to know what the effect is in your chart. And one of the fun things about astrology, especially during Mercury retrogrades, is you can start to track those things. And so I would encourage you maybe go on a little treasure hunt, go look back at past experiences, pull the chart for that day or that time period if you can remember, and see what was happening. Was there Mercury retrograde? Was there not? Another fun one you can do that's not really related to Mercury retrogrades is moon conjunctions. They happen once a month, roughly. So, you can track events and stuff based on moon conjunctions. I have a specific moon conjunction. Obviously, not every single time it's conjunct is this important, but pretty much most of the major events in my life have happened on this specific planet and moon conjunction. So that's just a fun little tidbit. Anyways, back to the Mercury retrograde. Another feature, it's in fall and detriment because it's opposing Virgo, where it is exalted and domicile. I heard a lot of people being like, it's not the worst thing. You know, it's sorry, something popped on my screen. It's not the worst thing, but it's also not the place in which Mercury as an archetype works the best. And so you have to expect the unexpected. With the North Node being around, I think it's going to be a lot of unexpected fun things, not in a bad way at all. I'm not being sarcastic. I think a lot of artistic, really rich artistic themes and new growth and stories are going to come out of this. And we'll talk more about it when we get to the Sun conjunct the North Node. But I do think we're going to see 6-9 to a year from now, sometimes maybe 2 years, depending on the type of medium it is. But I think we're going to see a lot of really beautiful collaborations, musical releases, clothing collections coming out of this time period, specifically because Jupiter is trine and Jupiter is ruling it in an exalted place. So lots of really cool stuff is going to come from this time period. Unexpected, yes. Typical, no. So is it going to be difficult? Are things going to be especially fucked when it comes to communication and the internet? Yes. So back things up. Don't take things at face value. Also partially because Neptune is now in Aries, where everything is going to want to convince you that it is at face value when it isn't. Really watch how people's actions and words align. It'll give you a lot of information during this time. And then later in the day on Friday, we get that Sun conjunct the North Node, which is what I was talking about when I was saying we're going to have, I think, some really cool stuff that comes out of this moment. When I see a North Node conjunction, same with the South Node, I don't think, oh, on this day we are going to see something big happen. Usually it is a projection of what is possible in the future, of what we are heading towards, of what we are capable of. In Pisces, it is limitless. It is unbounded, what we can and cannot do. And with the Sun there, I feel like there's a bright light shown on possibility and progression. And so, like I said, astrology reacts differently to different people. So maybe if you have a planet conjunct the North Node, maybe you do feel physical, like repercussions or effects from this day. But for a lot of us, it's going to be what we can project into the future. It's also happening the same day as Mars is square Uranus, which I find interesting because while we're thinking of all this progress and possibility, Mars is really pissed off that things take time and that there is a bit of order with Uranus in Taurus that isn't typical of what you think about Uranus. It's very methodical in Taurus. It's very concerned with the long term, the longevity of things, as it should be. We've seen a lot of, if we don't do things differently, the world will not be able to be fixed while we're on it in the last 7 years. And that's very Uranus and Taurus. But in this moment, Mars wants to move and wants innovation to keep speed with its movement. And innovation currently is not keeping up with the pace of things because innovation is not regulated, right? Because a lot of things we're innovating for capitalism. So it's not truly an innovation, it's a money grab. And so I do think we're going to see, especially in mundane astrology, which is the astrology of like world events, I think we're going to see a lot of recalls. We're going to see a lot of people trying to push things through that are not safe for the general public. I think we might see some people releasing some information that they think is going to be well received as far as stuff. I think we might see something from Elon Pilon about something he's been working on possibly around this time that he thinks is a great idea that's probably really bad for us as a general person. That's just an inkling I have. I'm curious to see if I'm right because I don't often dabble in mundane prediction. I prefer to do like interpersonal prediction. But that Mars Uranus square is going to piss people off on top of the Mercury retrograde, while also people are going to be like, we need to do this now. And it's like, well, this is a North Node conjunction, so maybe not now, but let's get started. So just be ready for people to be crusty as hell and be really, really frustrated and on edge. You can keep an eye on yourself and make sure that you don't lash out at those you love. But interestingly, the very next day, on Saturday, we get Mercury conjunct Venus, which I think is a beautiful time to express our feelings around our current relationships, especially if things are not going well. This is a good day to check in. Also, a great day for some of you to start or to get going on couples therapy. I'm getting that one. If you're in a relationship that's not going well, but you still want to keep said relationship, please get into therapy. And if it's not for a partner, maybe it's individual therapy for both of you, or maybe it's family therapy. Um, this is also a time to like poetically connect to relationships and what they mean to you. I think for some of you, especially with the Mercury retrograde and the North Node's adjacency and the fact that Mercury is going to be stationing on the North Node, I think a lot of it might be you discovering that you work better in a different relationship style. Some of you having some insights on your gender identity. Um, if you haven't told other people about who you are currently, there will be a pressure in the universe to do that. Do you have to? No. But it might be a good time to do it either now or after the Mercury retrograde and things have stabilized. Um, but yeah, so this week, while not as bombastic, it is very interpersonal. It is both progressive and regressive, which is tough because we want to push forward, we want to move ahead in things, and we're going to be kind of held back by the energy just a smidge. I would encourage you to take the Mercury retrograde as a time to kind of refresh and reboot. Give yourself space if you're traveling. Make sure you give yourself an extra 30 minutes to an hour if it's international. Give yourself an extra 15 if you're driving somewhere. If your car makes a weird noise, not a bad idea to get ahead of it before it actually does something that you don't like. Um, but yeah, I also do think some unexpected connections in this Mercury retrograde just overall because it's in the Eclipse Portal. Because it is, we got the North Node involved. Mercury is not Venus in the sense of like relationships and values, but it is connection in the sense of communication and the sharing of information. Be very clear about what you're trying to communicate, or just surrender to the fact that that's not a current strength. You have one of two choices. I would not fight it. Um, if you don't dabble in poetry or any art making, I would encourage you to. This is a great way to harness this energy and also kind of offset some of the results that can happen. It's called remediation. When you do an activity in order to kind of counterbalance the energy that's currently ongoing, like something you do in Mercury retrograde is like it's like start a craft project and like lose one of your pieces and never finish it, and that's your Mercury retrograde energy, right? Or you start it and forget about it and then pick it up in a couple of months when the retrograde energy is cleared, or in the next retrograde. So, do some sort of handcraft, write poetry, sing songs, maybe pick up voice lessons, which I actually teach voice lessons. And I know a lot of you don't know this, but I used to be an opera singer. Pick up voice lessons. You can actually book with me if you really want to. I'm actually quite a good teacher, but DM me if you're interested in voice lessons. I teach musical theater and opera, and I can do some pop, but I'm mostly looking at the foundations and fundamentals. Encouraging, stabilizing, so that you can do whatever you want. Anyways, don't know where that came from, but music lessons, art lessons, going to museums, filling your life with beautiful things, engaging and connecting with people that feel stabilizing. Do I think we should try a bunch of new things? Depends on your chart. If you are a Mercury retrograde by birth, yes. If you are not, I would not suggest trying to slot yourself into a community maybe at this time. I'm not saying don't participate in community events, but maybe stick to streamline things that you know are going to work or should work, so that when things fall apart, they're still slightly functioning. But that is the energy of this week. It is the eclipse portal, so things are still really chaotic. We still have that South Node eclipse, which is at 12 degrees of Virgo. Is it 12? No. Yeah, 12 degrees of Virgo. I was thinking we're still on the other axis, and I was like, oh, how is it that early? It's because we're in a new season. But this is my reading for this week. If you have any questions, you can always put in the comments. I love hearing from you all. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Have a blessed week. I feel like there's something else to say. Choose your interpersonal time wisely. Either invest in something that you already have very intentionally, or don't invest in something that has felt like an energy drain for a while when it comes to relationships. Just a little tip from spirit. Anyways, my loves, have a blessed week.